Hi, this is Trey Pass. I'm going to do another Mr. Nightmare stories. I love Mr. Nightmare, and this one is going to be 3 Uber/Lyft horror stories. Okay, and it's supposed to have 3 stories on it, and it says 2 new stories and 1 story that's been used already in a video that was removed. Okay, so let's get to it, and I'll be right back with my reaction. My headphones in. Okay, here we go right now. Go. Uber/Lyft horror stories. Story 1. Boom, boom.
This was 4 years ago when I was an 18-year-old college student, and where I'm from, May is finals month.
Okay.
I spent yet another late night in the campus library until closing time, which in May is 11 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. since everyone's up late studying.
Okay.
I had to call an Uber to my off-campus apartment since I had arrived with a friend who left hours before me and I didn't have my car with me. I was out in the library parking lot at 11:15 when the Uber pulled up. It was a gray Toyota Camry. The driver's name was Adam.
Okay.
He greeted me as normal, and I sat in the back seat diagonal from him.
Okay.
He looked to be in his mid-40s. For the first 5 minutes of the ride, there were no words exchanged between the two of us. But then he started to ask me questions. His first question was if I was a student, which seemed a rather pointless question since I was just picked up from a college library. Next, he asked how my classes are going, then how old I was. I didn't like that question. I lied and said I was 23 instead of 18. At this point, I noticed he would constantly look at me through the rearview mirror as he spoke. And when he would finish what he was saying, he had this weird, creepy smirk on his face. His questions were getting a little too personal for someone whose sole relationship with me was supposed to be my driver for 10 to 15 minutes. He asked how my dating life at school was, and as much as I wanted to just flat out ignore his question, I said it wasn't bad. I should have lied and said I had a boyfriend, but for whatever reason I didn't think of saying that. He transitioned from questions to making comments, like that he used to be a huge cheater in college and asked if I ever cheated. I nervously laughed and said once or twice. He then made it even weirder, to no surprise, and asked if I'd ever cheated on a boyfriend. I said no. At this point we were stopped at a red light. I tried my best to avoid looking at the rearview mirror, but I was too curious and snuck a peek. He was looking at me.
Oh boy.
He made a comment that I was very pretty. I knew it was coming eventually, and it still was incredibly creepy. I didn't acknowledge it. There were 2 minutes left in the ride, when I noticed he made a left turn instead of a right turn at one of the intersections. So I spoke up and told him he went the wrong way. Then he said he knows, he just has to stop at his place real quick to get something. I asked him to please just drop me off first, but he insisted his house was a minute away.
No, thank you.
And apparently it was. He stopped in front of a house and said, "We're here." And he turned to me and asked if I wanted to come in, saying he had alcohol and food in case I wanted to release some stress after studying. I didn't even know what to say. I wanted to get out of the car and run, but I was scared to. I said, "Please just take me home." He chuckled and said he'd be right back. He went into his house, and that was when I got out from the car and started to run. No, I didn't think he had plans to murder me, but something was off about him and the situation, and I just wanted to get out of there. Moments later, I felt my phone vibrate. It was a message from Adam the driver saying, "You know I have your address, hot stuff." That just made me run even faster. I canceled the ride just so he wouldn't be able to contact me anymore. I made it back to my apartment in a few minutes. Running with my backpack was hard, but thank God I do my cardio. My apartment was the left side of a duplex. That Adam guy wasn't parked in front of my house by the time I got back, so I hoped maybe he just wouldn't come. I filled out a form on Uber.com titled "Report a Serious Incident with a Driver," and I just gave all the details of the trip and included a screenshot of his message threatening that he had my address. Uber contacted me the next day, stating the driver was removed from the platform and should there be any further contact, that I should contact the authorities. Well, the next night when my roommate wasn't home because she was spending the night with the guy she was talking to, there was a knock at the front door followed by the doorbell. It was like 8 to 9 p.m., so it was kind of late for solicitors or anything like that. I called through the door, "Who is it?" And a man's voice on the other side said, "I found something that belongs to you." I asked, "Who is this and what did you find?" Their response was, "Just open up, I'll show you." The voice was familiar. I looked through the window next to the door, and I saw Adam the Uber driver hiding to the side of the door like he was pressed flat up against the wall.
Call the cops.
And he was holding something, I couldn't tell what. I ran for my phone to call 911, and sparing them all the details, I just begged for police to get to my apartment immediately. But by the time police arrived in front of the duplex, the knocks had long since stopped. He was gone, at least off the front porch. but I imagine he saw the police cars in front of the house because he never returned after that. There was this whole following up with the Uber report and the police now, but since there was no proof that it was Adam at the front door, I couldn't even press charges. The semester was over anyway, the lease was up, and I moved back home for summer.
Jesus.
I left no trace for that Adam guy to ever find me again. At least, I don't think I did.
Okay, very careful. Sorry too, Anonymous. He's a pervert.
This story still haunts me to this day. Almost every day. I used to be an Uber driver as my second job, usually late at night, like bar closing hours. It was a Saturday night around 3 a.m. I was a couple hours into my Uber driving night, and I got a call from across town to pick someone up on a street corner. In came some guy, African-American, mid-20s, he had dreadlocks, I noticed a small tattoo on his neck, but I didn't look much longer than that. I asked how his night's going, and he just grunted. Happens, not everyone's super friendly. I confirmed the address he gave me, which appeared to be a house, and he just said yeah. About a minute into the drive, he got a little aggressive and concerned that I apparently made a wrong turn because he thought I was taking a longer route. I assured him that I was just following the route that the app was giving me, and he calmed down. Like 10 seconds later, he asked me if I'm feeling lucky, and I asked, what do you mean? He follows that with, I mean, how much do you value your life, son?
What?
Nobody really values what they got. I didn't like where this was going. I responded that I appreciate my life and kids every single day. He went silent after that for a while. Then he started saying some things at such a low volume that I didn't know if he was talking to me or not. So I asked, what was that? He replied, nothing, fool, just get me to where I gotta be. I asked, where is it we're heading anyway? He replied, I just gotta take care of some unfinished business. I really didn't know what to make of that answer. But I wasn't looking to continue that conversation or dig any deeper than I had already dug. We pulled up to some corner in a rather poverty-stricken area. Not an area I typically did any drop-offs or pickups. The guy said, can you wait here for me? I froze for a second, confused. I asked, do you need a ride back somewhere? He replied, yeah, this'll be quick. I just gotta take care of some unfinished business first. I didn't want to drive this guy anywhere else, and I had a feeling whatever he was about to do in this house wasn't good, based on his unfinished business comment. I didn't want to be the getaway driver after some kind of fight or altercation, so I said, yeah, I'll be waiting here, but I had no intentions of waiting. The ride was marked as complete on my end anyway. He shut the car door and approached the house, but he wasn't approaching the front door. He went to the back of the house by the backyard. I didn't stick around after that. I drove off after about 20 seconds, slowly and quietly so he wouldn't hear me taking off. I chose to end my shift that night right then and there. I was pretty sketched out. The next day, I heard something on the news that changed a part of me forever. There were 2 people shot in their home in the town I dropped that guy off the night before. As the news report went on, they showed a picture of the suspected shooter, and it was the guy I dropped off at that house. He was apprehended fleeing the scene not too far away after neighbors reported hearing gunshots. The shooting was suspected to be gang-related. I have forever blamed myself for this partially, having been the one to drive someone with intentions of murdering people to his destination to commit his heinous acts.
Didn't know.
People have told me if it wasn't me, it would have been another Uber driver. But I still can't help but feel partially to blame for this and not picking up on the red flags in that car ride.
What can you do? Story 3.
It was a stormy night, the first thunderstorm of the year. This was after my night shift ended at 4 a.m., and I had to call a Lyft to the train station since I didn't have my car at the time. I waited outside the place I bartended at the time, under the front patio to avoid getting soaked. A car pulled down the empty street and stopped in front of the bar. I had to check the Lyft app to ensure it was the correct car, and it was. A gray Honda Civic. I got in and greeted the driver, whose name was Sahil. I attempted to get in the front seat at first, but he told me not to and to sit in the back. That was only the second time I ever tried sitting in the front. That was before I realized it was customary to sit in the back seat. From the bar to the train station, it was about 10 minutes. The reason I was taking the train instead of just Ubering the whole way to my house is because I'd be saving about $40. The driver was going very slow, but there was nothing weird about that given the weather outside. I would expect anyone to drive cautiously in a torrential downpour like this one. The driver didn't take the highway route. He took us down the side roads. I wasn't concerned about missing my train though. I had plenty of time. I wasn't concerned until the driver said something under his breath and then pulled the car to the side of the road. I looked up from my phone to see why and saw a man in the pouring rain waving his hands in the air. I almost asked if he was stopping to pick him up, but I just observed. And yes, the man on the street got in the back passenger seat next to me. He was soaking wet. He kept his black hood on in the car. I scooted all the way over to the left. I was expecting the man and the driver to exchange some kind of words, but they didn't. Did they know each other? I had no idea what was going on. During the ride, I felt in the corner of my eyes the feeling of that man next to me looking at me. Maybe he was looking out my window, so I shot a quick half-second glance to him. But I was wrong. He was looking at me. On top of it, as the drive progressed, I started paying more attention to the route we were taking. It wasn't the right way to the train station. I tried to sneak a peek at the driver's phone screen to see if maybe he was following some incorrect route, but he seemed to have his phone on his lap, unlike most Lyft drivers who have their phones mounted on the dashboard. I politely said, "I think we're going the wrong way."
Okay.
He replied something in such a low tone mixed with a thick accent that I had a hard time understanding it. By the third time I asked him to repeat himself, I finally just repeated myself and said, "We're going the wrong way." I confirmed this by checking the map on my phone. The driver didn't acknowledge me. I felt as though the guy next to me was inching closer every minute. He also wouldn't stop staring at me. Eventually, I asked the driver to pull over and cancel the ride. No acknowledgement. The driver was blowing stop signs, and there were no stoplights anywhere on these sidewalks, so I didn't really have a good time to escape, but I knew I was about to be their victim of something. This was some kind of trap, so I decided I was going to jump out of the car when I had the chance. I waited till we were on a street with woods on one side, which was perfect for me to make my escape. The car was going probably 15 to 20 miles per hour. I opened the car and jumped out. The two men screamed stuff in a different language, I'm guessing to each other. My impact with the ground was obviously painful, but I think the layer of water on the street might have cushioned my fall a little bit. The car completely stopped, and I saw the man who was next to me get out. I had to get on my feet and run into the woods. I heard him chasing after me for a little bit, but there was no shot he'd find me. I heard him yell something back to the car. It sounded like it was in Russian. Then he ran back to the car and they drove off. I immediately called an Uber instead of a Lyft this time. And this time I was brought safely to the train station. While on the train, I went ahead and filed an online police report, and then contacted Lyft and reported the driver. The next day, I also went to the police station and reported the whole incident. But here's where the bomb was dropped. There was a gray Honda Civic reported stolen just the night before. I gave them every last detail I could remember, and eventually I was on my way. I left that police station contemplating my life, and just how narrowly I may have escaped with my life.
So, you were lucky. Because look, they definitely had bad intentions. Oof. That was freaky. Always go Uber. Screw Lyft. Anyway, yeah, those are three freaky stories. That last story, obviously they had bad intentions. Because, Uber driver don't pick up somebody else and don't tell you about it. I was going to say, maybe punch him in the back of his head. He'll stop the fucking car. If you punch him in the back of the head and elbow the other guy in credit, but it's 2 against 1. So you did the right thing jumping out of the car, because they definitely had probably intentions of robbing you and stuff. But yeah, you did the right thing. That was freaky. Yeah, he's driving a long way. Come on, you pick up somebody else and don't even say anything. Come on, and you ask him questions and he's not making mention of it. Yeah. Like I said, man, I open up the door and then jump out. But before I jumped out, I'd probably punch him in the back of his head and then jump out. But you did the right thing, because obviously that was a trap, and they obviously stole a car and was going around probably robbing people and pretending to be an Uber and robbing people. But anyway, the second story, that's not your fault. I mean, this guy was obviously intending on murdering somebody, and he probably would have murdered you if you'd have hung around. Exactly, he probably would, because you were the one that could tell him, what place you drove him to. So he probably would have killed you too. So you did the right thing. Because the only other thing you could do is maybe drive to a police station if that was close. But we can say, I'm driving him. You stop in front of the police station and say, this guy's freaking me out. and the guy could get out of the car and run by the time you go into the police station. So yeah, you did what you had to do. I wouldn't. I know you're gonna feel guilty about that because so he murdered 2 people, so obviously you're gonna feel guilty about that. But that's not your fault. Sketchy guy, get in the car. Is that when you're gonna either kick him out of the car or you drive him to a police station? You're in a kind of impossible situation with and you didn't know his murderous intention. Although, like I said, he did sound sketchy. Exactly. So I don't know what the rules are for Uber. If you can just kick him out and like that. But then, like I said, what if he would have try to harm you if you didn't take him to the destination? You never know. Like I said, you did the right thing in escaping and stuff, because obviously this guy was sketchy and you could tell. And then when you saw him go and you peeled out nice and slow, that was the right thing to do. Exactly. And they obviously caught the guy, but you do feel sorry for the people he murdered. Exactly. Which is even if it was just gang related, he still murdered 2 people, human beings. So I understand why you can feel guilty about that. And the first story, again, I understand. That's why I think again it's so hard for women, especially women, college age women, or even just women, business women, by yourself, because there's so much evil in the world, not just and by yourself. And the guy obviously is psychotic, well, not even psychotic, just crazy, just trying to, obviously he had bad intentions. And he even follows you, came back to your apartment, your house, and obviously was having bad intentions to open up the door. Get out of it, please. I wish he had a gun. Could have shot it right through the door. Just, okay, you want some? Okay, you can't take the hint. Let me put a few lead pencils in you. A few lead, some lead into you, and maybe you'll get the point then. Just again, like I said, it's a sick world, and I feel sorry for men, even guys. Sometimes it can happen to guys too. That because you're vulnerable. Especially if you're there by yourself. That's why if you can, especially the college, I think they were high school. They said 18, right? Definitely not by yourself. Definitely when your friend left, you should have left with him. I know it's easy to say that women won't have independence and stuff, but I'm sorry, you're just vulnerable at night. It's just, and that's unfortunately that's the reality. Unfortunately, with a lot of in the world, and I used to come home late from movies sometime, and I used to always be aware of my surroundings, because especially you try at nighttime. There's not that many people around, and you never know who has bad intentions or not. Okay, so that's why I used to always try to make sure that I walk with purpose. I ain't walking all slow, lazy, like no. I walk with purpose to get to my house. Okay, walk with purpose and walk as fast as I can to get to my house. I'm not gonna be because you never know who's out there who could want to harm you. And again, like I said, you're a woman, you're vulnerable to these creeps, especially like he got you trapped in the car, and then he starts asking all these personal questions and stuff, and then saying you're pretty and all that. Come on, you know where this is going. Okay, and ask you, do you ever cheat on you? Come on, get out. Come on. Exactly. I wish she had like a stun gun or something. She could have stunned them. There you go. This is you want to ask? This is a question. Zap the crap out of them. Exactly, because unfortunately there's creepy people around, and you're vulnerable as a woman, or even as a guy, you could be vulnerable too. Exactly. You never know what the guy has in the front. This is an Uber, but you never know. Even though these things are supposed to be registered, you can easily find out who they are, unless, like I said, they steal the Uber or something. But you can usually find out who they are. But it's still creepy because you're vulnerable, and I do feel sorry for women sometimes that have to go through this, because you want to live your life and go to college and all this stuff and have a normal life, but unfortunately there's creepy people out. That's why I'd say it's best to travel in pairs or something. At least with 2 people, you got a better chance of getting away, or of offending the guy off if it's 2 of you rather than 1. And I remember there was a story I think on Dateline about a girl that I think it was in California back in the 80s or 90s or whatever it was. The blonde, where her and her roommate went to this party on the college campus, and then the friend wanted to go back home, so she left, and the other girl, she stayed, and then unfortunately they never found her, and they suspected this guy of killing her and stuff, because she was by herself. And unfortunately, women are vulnerable, which is unfortunate. In the perfect world, they wouldn't be, and everybody would be gentlemen, and nobody would hurt you. But unfortunately, you got people out there that have bad intentions. So that's it's crazy. So I still think so I think that story is scary. And then plus the guy came to your house. Come on, that's crazy. And then the other story with the guy, The guy with the murder thing, that's, I can understand why you feel guilty because the guy murders people, but that's not your fault because you never know who you're picking up. Okay. But the third story was kind of creepy too, with the guy that obviously they had bad intentions and they were going to either rob you or murder you or whatever. So that's creepy too. So I still think the first story, because you're a woman, you're vulnerable. So I think the first story, the third story, then the second story in terms of how they rate to me. Anyway, let me know what you think of these 3 Uber/Lyft horror stories. I'll leave a link to Mr. Nightmare's channel in the description box so you can check it out for yourself. Also have links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. Also have a link to my other channel, Paul Views and Opinions. Please check that out as well. Also have a link to my Patreon channel. Okay, and I also have, I want to say thank you to my patron. His name will be in this video somewhere. And I want to say thank you to him for supporting me. And again, follow the link to my Patreon. There's tons of content on there. I put new content on there every week. So please check it out. $5, tons of content on there. Okay, you can so follow the link, and if you like it, support me. I appreciate it. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long and take care.